Hey guys, we are here for the what is this? This is the trade deadline stream. This is one of my favorite recordings that we've done. So, for the last 2 years, we've kind of come up with what you should do at the deadline, as well as some review the worst trades of the year. Some of these were great in the moment, some of them were not great in the moment, and so it's just fun to kind of go through and talk about what we think could happen, should happen, should have happened, what did happen, all those things. So. Um, Code and I did this a little separately together, so I'll be reacting to a lot of the stuff that he did. He'll be reacting to everything that I did. But Code, you went through and found the worst trades each team has made so far this year. I went through and found trades that were fair according to Keep Trade Cut that made sense. I know it's tough. Like, it was really tough doing that because there were certain players that was just like, this guy's worth so much. And I'm like, is he with that contract, or this guy's not worth anything? And it's like, well, you don't understand. Like, you're competing for the this or for the that. So, so there was some wiggle room, but it was important that they were all fair on Keep Trade Cut. Only one not fair on Keep Trade Cut, and we'll see which one that is, and we'll talk about why when we get there. Talk me through your process for looking for the worst trades for each team, because it's subjective, right? But did they all stand out really easily, or were there any glaring ones, or had to dig for them, or?
I mean, there were a couple ones that, looking at it now, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? And then, like, what the hell were some other people thinking? But I mean, that's just the fun in fantasy. You think it's a good move at the time, and it ends up not being good. I mean, everybody's had at least a blunder here or there. But interestingly enough, there were a couple. Because I looked at each of the trades that everybody made, and of course that's my own opinion, but like a couple managers in this league, like I looked at all the trades they made on the year, and I'm like, honestly, I don't think any of their deals were like just a flat out bad move. Like, so like some of these that you guys might see, you're like, oh, that's not a bad trade, and I'm like, well, it was the worst of the ones that were, it was the worst of the ones in comparison.
Yeah, because to clarify, we didn't go back to like right after the startup draft, or a year ago. I think, what did we do? Was it just rookie draft really this year? Was like the furthest back we went?
The furthest back was this year, so I guess like technically that'd be when the league rolls over.
Okay, yeah.
So but yeah, it's really just like a look back on the trades this whole year from the start of I guess the dynasty off season. We'll call it. Then looking ahead to the deadline and seeing if seems like going to be anything spicy, because I know Unicorn's been in the chat trying to make moves. I'm sure K-Migs is talking to people. I want to see if the Toilet Bowl teams buy.
There are multiple people talking to me here about trades here at the deadline, and I don't think so. Our trade deadline in the first year was insane. Still my favorite member of this league. Second, last year not so much. I've got a really good feeling that it's going to be back on the spicy side this year. And hopefully this helps as well at the exact same time. So let's get to it. Let's start with our worst trade. So we go in this weird arbitrary order. Just everything in my head goes in the weird arbitrary order of our division. So maybe we do reverse order, just to be
I'm down for whatever.
So let's start here. We're going to start all the way at the back end. Let's start with Chase. This is the trade that you said is the worst trade for Chase of the year, with not Deshaun. What's his name? What's his first name? Is his Vele? Oh, Vele, whatever.
Devon Vele.
Yeah, Vele for the fourth.
You knew he had to get Devon Vele on here.
Yeah, for the meme at least. But yeah, just for the fourth round pick. Obviously, he was poached, but Chase kind of got something out of it, but could have held on, right? Like at this point, you probably hold on to him for the fourth, I would guess, right?
Yeah, that was kind of the logic. When I looked at this one, I was like thinking, like, I mean, Vele right now, Bo Nix is killing it. That Broncos offense looks a lot better. Obviously, Sutton's still the one, but it's like Vele's produced for PPR, and I mean, you're getting like what, a 2027-4, like that. Who even knows? That guy could be on the streets in 3 years after that.
Yeah.
I mean, same for Vele because he's 26, but at least right now he's producing. I just think holding on to Vele might have been better for Chase, but I guess he just didn't care about that contract increase, which, I mean, going up from, a $1 guy to $13 is kind of a big deal with the poaching.
Yeah.
but you don't have to extend them. You can just keep that 1 year 13,
Keep him and
use the
let him
player
go.
that year and then let him go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on to going in backwards order. So next up is going to be Rick. We've got a second and a third for Matthew Stafford and $83. So Rick sending away Stafford after the restructure, getting a late second and projected mid third here to Cam. What was your theory kind of looking at this one?
Yeah, looking at this
Anthony
one,
Richardson
like,
got benched like right after this, I think, right?
No, I don't think so. This one was a off-season trade, and I think I understand it because of the trying to rebuild and accumulate assets. But it's like looking back at it now, I mean, Caleb Williams is up and down, and I guess you could say the same thing about Stafford. But A-Rich, we don't know about him. Just looking back on it, it's like this one might be one he regrets. We can see if he has a comment on that. But you're trading, you're getting. What was it? You got a second and a third. Was that in this last year's draft?
It was, the 2024 draft. So the second turned. I'm looking at it right now. The second, he ended up trading to Project. So the second wasn't taken by him, but it was Jalen Polk. The third, that was Morgan's, turned into Javon Baker.
Okay.
So so two Patriots receivers. Baker's still on Rick's roster.
Right.
Not what you probably are looking to get when you trade away a quarterback.
Well, I mean,
Superflex.
Yeah, and like when you think about it, it's like, yeah, obviously, like, they're all dart throws because they're all rookies. But I mean, Stafford, regardless of if it's a rebuild or not, just having like a consistent starter at quarterback is so valuable. So that's what I mean. And objectively, this isn't even like a bad trade value wise, but this is the worst of the ones that he had made.
Yeah. Now you're up next, and we've got Devin Singletary that you got for George Kittle.
We can skip this one.
Yeah. I mean, I get the logic, right? Like you had to you moved Kittle with the anticipation of not being able to re-sign him, but this happened. This was an off-season one too, right? Like Kittle would have gotten so much more had it been this last week or so that you did this trade.
Yeah, this one, I remember my thought process exactly with this. So off-season, everybody has their 5 moves. I had intentionally franchise tagged him with the intent of trading him, which is actually something that NFL GMs are doing nowadays with their guys. Because I know they can't sign them long-term. I don't know what his contract was, but I was looking at my cap and I was like, there's no way I can sign him long-term. So let me tag him, reduce the cost, and then see if I can get a buyer. And for some reason, the offseason, his market was ass. Like, nobody wanted to pay anything for him. And I was like, well, I'll ship him to Unicorn for a running back that's supposed to be the guy until Tyrone Tracy came over. And honestly, like, I mean, Kittle is, like, far and away, like, tight end 1 or 2 or 3. I mean, he's right up there with
So I looked, it's Bowers now, yeah. Bowers is 1, Kelsey is 4. But yeah, I mean, he's top 5 right now.
Like, yeah, had I held on to him, that would have been awesome. But then on the flip side, I think about it, it's like my team was dealing with the injury bug all early year, and Singletary's had some clutch starts for me. So I know right now he's just a guy, but I mean, we'll see if he did enough to warrant a re-sign.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I love Tracy. I have Tracy in my redraft because I got him off waivers, and Tracy's a great talent. But I mean, I don't know. The rest of the year, you got DeVito and Locke. I don't see why you don't give both Tracy and Singletary 15 touches a game.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Neighbors too, but
there's
only so much
offense
to go around there.
Yeah, it should go to those 3 in particular. This was an interesting one. I kind of expected to get shit on in some capacity, but you went with sending Zach Ertz away from me for the 2027 fourth. That just comes from, I guess, how well Ertz has been producing so far this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, just it's kind of similar to the Devon Vele one. I mean, I don't think anybody really thought Ertz was going to do all that well. I know in my off-season top 5 projected free agents, Ertz did make the list because he signed with the Commanders, and I knew Kingsbury was the OC, and I thought there was some merit there, and it turns out that was right. But I don't know. I mean, I think I get your process because you were trying to just accumulate assets, but I mean, Ertz you would love those points right now.
I would love those points right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where he's at in the tight end ranks. He's number 7 right now, so yeah, that would be nice to have there.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he finishes as tight end 1, so you get K-Mix third. That'd be great.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen. He's 60 points behind Bowers, but a man can dream.
I think he's got a bye too, week 14. So that's but still,
there's no way it's over.
Great year for it's Eagles legend represent.
On God. Cam Hun getting. You're saying his worst trade was acquiring Tank Dell, sending away Derek Carr, a 2025 first, which is projected to be 101, maybe 102, and Morgan second, which is 205, 206 range probably. That's a big overpay for Tank Dell, no matter how much you like the talent.
Yeah, I mean this one was. I mean, obviously, like at first you look at it and you're looking at the players' one deal, you're like, oh, Derek Carr, that's a wash. Like screw that guy. But then you look at the first. At the time, nobody knew what that would be, but it was definitely really good for Project to have a QB he could put in. Doesn't have him on the roster anymore, but and then that looks like it could be the 102, 101 potentially. I mean, Project's team has been spooky lately, as true to the name.
Yeah, I mean, that's 103 at worst, right? I mean, I would.
Right.
That's a fun question. Would you rather have 103 or Tank Dell?
I think it's 103 for me. Even with the Diggs injury, I still think it's 103.
Probably, right? But so then you're getting Derek Carr and a second on top of it. I think Derek Carr was a bit of a cap dump. But even still. Yeah, even still. Next one on the list, we got Flynn, where Flynn sends Demario Douglas and a third for Aaron Rodgers. 2026 third, so not as impactful. It'll be next year as Flynn's on the up and up. But, going out and buying Aaron Rodgers when you've already got some of these other quarterbacks on your roster and Rodgers hasn't been doing too much, that kind of made it on the list here for you.
Yeah, I mean, Flynn was one of the guys that hadn't done a whole lot of trades. This was like one of the only ones. And I mean, just with all the Rodgers drama surrounding him and everything, it's like maybe he doesn't even play in 2025. I guess the consolation is if he doesn't actually play in 2025 and like officially retires, then he'd get that $120 cap off the books. But if he doesn't retire and doesn't join a team because he gets Belichicked in the offseason and everyone's like, I don't want you. I don't want to hire you. Like, what if that happens and he has to deal with the dead cap cut unless he wants to keep him on the roster? It's a risk to take. I mean, hopefully his condition doesn't pan out because I think he needs to get 25 plus TDs for that pick to change from a third to like a second or something. I don't know what it is, but because if that does end up happening, then I think it just makes the trade worse for him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And he's now saying like that he wants to play again, or doesn't necessarily know if he wants to play, but if he does, it's the Jets. So I wonder if Flynn's kind of hoping that he doesn't hit the touchdowns and just retires and gets that money back because he's 120 next year, from what I remember.
It's such a mess. Such a mess.
Yeah, and I even kind of said like I wouldn't expect both Cousins and Rodgers to come back and be great, and it looks like I was right for the most part with the Rodgers piece, at least so far. Unicorn sending a 2024 third-round pick for Josh Palmer in the offseason. What made it make this the list for you as I go look up what that pick turned into? It's a late third.
This was another one. Yeah, it's a late third. This was another one. Unicorn hadn't made a ton of moves, and objectively, this one was like the worst one of the moves he had made. But I mean, I get it. He's in the off season. I was shopping Palmer because Palmer was projected to be the one in LA with Harbaugh, and he was like, "Sure, I'll send a third." And I was like, "Yeah, great, we'll do it." But I mean, right now Palmer doesn't look like he's anything. Not like we know who Palmer is, and he's just a guy. So McConkey is killing it over there. QJ still can't catch though, so maybe Palmer will have some spike weeks remaining in the season, but. Yeah, this one's not like egregious value or anything, just the worst one on the list for the year.
The pick turned into, you ended up trading it looks like, or you traded the player to Flynn, but it ended up being Devontae Walker, who has precisely 0 points so far this year. So the pick didn't turn into a home run. That's nice. At least it didn't turn into like Bucky Irving or something like that, where you're like, shit, I'd rather have Bucky than Palmer at this point.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But still an interesting trade. This was the first bigger one we see in a while. And you said getting Mahomes was K. Miggs' worst trade so far this year.
Oh yeah, I think we can all kind of shit on K-Migs for this one,
I
thinking
shit on him for
that
everything.
Mahomes is great, but I don't know. I mean, that's just the thing. Like when you trade for like these big name QBs, I feel like lately, like it's more about having the longevity and long term, I guess, just value or just free square at the position almost. But Mahomes has been nothing close to a free square because he's been like a QB2 for fantasy for the past most of the season, really. I think like what last week was his best week. I don't even
Yep.
remember, but I know you own him in most of your leagues, so
Yeah, no, last week was a nuts week for him.
right. So I mean that's positive. I guess getting Pacheco back maybe that helps, but maybe they just
QB 10
give
right now, by the
Pacheco
way,
a
for all the fucking haters.
lot.
QB 10.
What's that?
It's
QB
QB
10.
10 right now for all you fucking haters out there.
Yeah.
He was
So
QB2 last week, QB4 a few weeks ago, but otherwise, yes. His
I mean,
4 QB1 finishes, the rest has been QB2.
yeah. So it's like I mean, obviously, like I understand the like tier up because K-Mag has always had assets to play with.
Yeah.
And I think he's another one of the guys that didn't have any like just huge misses on the year. But I mean, I guess you can consider this one a miss when you look at what he gave up. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, in any other league, it's like okay, whatever. I got Mahomes, screw you. But in this league, you look at that contract; he's got like 350 next year. I know they were talking in chat about how nobody's worth that kind of money except for Saquon Barkley, but that's another here or there.
That's a whole other one.
Yeah.
Let's look at what we've got for Allen. So Allen sending, Allen getting an early 2024 second, sending a late 2024 second, also sending a late 2025 second. What made this hit the list for you? I'm pulling up the
Yeah.
what those picks turned into as well.
Yeah, I want to see what the picks turned into. But when I looked at this one, because Allen didn't have a ton of trades either. I think Allen might have had like 3 trades on the whole year, one of the fewest. But looking at it, I was just kind of like, why are we like trading 2 2s to move up to a 2? I guess it's true to his philosophy of the stars and scrubs.
Yeah.
But I mean, he doesn't have any depth to begin with.
Yeah,
And
the
trading
picks,
away a 2-1.
picks ended up being Michael Penix for Allen. So Allen's got Penix. Sent away what turned into Xavier Legette, as well as a currently projected late 25 second. So maybe not as egregious when you put it on paper, but Allen doesn't do a whole bunch of trading. And that's a big price to slide up what was basically 4 spots.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it because it's like 2 2s, and honestly, like Legette, I mean, the Panthers, you got Thielen, Coker, David Moore, and Legette on that roster.
And at the time, Deontay Johnson. Yeah.
Legette's he's gonna have hopefully some good games.
Yeah. On to Project Badass. You're saying sending away Jalen Warren, getting the late 24 second. Late 24 second turned into Jalen Polk.
Yeah, and then he's back on his roster. Polk ends up on his roster with the Waddle trade. That's kind of funny how it all comes full circle.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, looking at this one, I think I get trying to get another draft pick, but I mean, Warren is an NFL caliber starter almost. Especially for the Steelers, it's tough to get on that team, anyways. Not that I would know, but looking at his team, it's like he didn't have a ton of running backs to begin with, and he's trading away one of the guys he could slot in for at least some an 8-point floor every week.
Yeah.
For a random 2. It didn't seem like a wise move in my eyes.
Moving on to Morgan, a big one here, so we'll zoom in to kind of make it a little bit better. But sending Jameson, let me do it this way. Sending Devontae Adams 2/3 and 3/4 away to get Jameson Williams. A bit of a cap dump because Devontae expensive and Jameson not so much. But again, a lot that you're giving up. 25 looks like his 25 third, so a mid 25 third, a mid 25 fourth, an early 25 fourth, projected early 26 third, projected early 26 fourth. So a lot of pieces when Jameson for Devontae depends on, I guess, how much of a fan of the player you are.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think this one. The reason why this made the list was just because of the amount of assets it took to get it done. Obviously, Devontae's got a pretty large cap hit, but when he retires, that cap hit just goes away. It's clear. So, um, I'd kind of just have rode Devontae to the ground, I think, and just dealt with it. But he bought the upside of JMO, and I can't really fault him because JMO's looked pretty good this year. I mean, when the Lions are scoring 30 points a game, you want a piece of that offense, however you can get it. So I kind of understand it, but it just seemed like a lot of assets to move. When I mean, another league, you probably could have got this done for Devontae and a single third instead of Devontae and all this.
Right. Or just Devontae on his own, depending on contending window and all that good stuff too, for sure.
Right. Yep.
And then the infamous Amari Cooper for a 2026 third trade with Nate, you have graded as his worst trade this year.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think this is all but fair, based off of the chatter that it created. But I mean, looking at it, based off his other moves he had made, this was probably the worst one. I mean, he only made like 4 trades, I think. The Cooper Cup one, the Jonathan Taylor one. But after looking at all 4 of them objectively, this one probably was his worst one.
Yeah. So that does it for our worst trade section. Now it comes to the, what a team should do according to me or both of us. But I tried to go team by team and think as objectively as I could have, and I'll kind of explain each one as we go. So we're gonna go in reverse for the one we just.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, because you haven't seen any of this. So, so every team's got a trade on here. Every single team except K Migs is a recipient of one of the trades. I think is how it shook out to be. Didn't mean to do it like that, but then just had 2 that I really liked for one team. It was like I don't want to switch it now, and who's left out. And I try to make myself the team that left out, but whatever. But every team's got a trade that they should do. And then every single team except for K Migs, I think, is a recipient of one of those trades that they should do that also makes sense for them in a sense. So we'll start with Nate. Keenan Allen, really the last player that's prominent on their team, and Keenan Allen just had a good week last week. So let's send him away for some youth. Keenan Allen and a late 25 third, which is on his roster, or an early 25 fourth and Marshawn Lloyd. I think it makes sense because Marshawn Lloyd is supposed to be good. He's also a Packers fan. You're getting another Packers player. And Keenan Allen is at the end of his time. And by the time that Nate turns his team around, Keenan Allen is going to be retired or gone or worthless or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, slide back a tiny bit, pick up a young players on a 3-year cheap deal and make it happen. Again, fair down there according to Keep Trade Cut. That is a trade that would be happening with Chase. Chase is currently the owner of Marshawn Lloyd. Keenan Allen getting to Chase could help for that last second playoff push, could help for the extra pick bracket because that middle group of teams is so competitive right now. So that's where that trade came from. I think it makes sense for both.
Yeah, I think I like that. I mean, Keenan Allen is like the last piece on Nate's roster.
Yep.
Doesn't make sense to be there at all. So I would not be surprised if he tries to explore this or something else to where he just gets rid of him for something. I mean, honestly, half of the trades that Nate's made since he came in have really just been, hey, give me something
out of here. Let me have
I
something.
don't care about it right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the last year Keenan Allen series, $56 if I remember correctly. So this is the last chance that he has, unless he plans to resign him, which great, but that doesn't fit with what your team's doing. He just had a good spike week. It could be a good sell window. I think this makes sense. Moving to Morgan. Just think you need a little bit of depth here in a hitter. I'm not saying Rico Dowdle is that dude, but a late third and a late fourth to give you some oomph. I think that Morgan will make the extra pick bracket and go in as an underdog to either Flynn or Chase. And so a little bit of a boost here just to get yourself something in your corner, I think makes a lot of sense. Morgan's team is good, but they've had a disappointing season with just the 10 wins. I'm trying to pull up their running back room, but I remember, Tajee Spears and Brian Robinson currently the starting one. Brian Robinson been banged up. Tajee Spears been banged up. J.K. Dobbins, the other one who just got hurt. That's why I went after what's a cheap running back I can get. His contract's pretty cheap. I think it's 12 this year and 28 next year. So I thought it was a cheap piece that Morgan might want to add to the roster for something that's very cheap on the end with those 2 picks.
Yeah, I really like this one. I mean, I'm not, obviously with Eagles, like we're no fans of the Cowboys here, but Dowdle is far and away the one there. And
Yep.
honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the one next year. So for a third and a fourth, I mean, shoot, if he can swing that, that'd be a great deal for Morgan.
Yeah. On to project. Wanted to go ahead and get a quarterback. You mentioned it earlier on in the show that he doesn't have another quarterback in that spot now with the injury there. So, what is a cheap quarterback we can? Oh, this one, by the way, Rico Dowdle is currently on Rick's team. I think 99% sure Rick owns Rico. Oh no, is it Unicorn that owns Rico?
I think
Uh,
in this league it might be Unicorn. Yeah, so I'd be
it is
hard pressed to
Unicorn,
get
yeah.
him.
Yeah, so Unicorn on Rico Dowdle. Went with this. So I thought of a trade with Project and Code. I said I need a cheap backup quarterback that's producing well to plug in my super flex spot so I can compete the toilet bowl. Code has backup quarterbacks. So Jameis Winston there for him. How does it happen, really? With a 2026 mid-third. I said it was a mid. I can't remember which team he would be sending. I think it was, a team that in my head said it's a mid-third round pick. It wasn't close enough on Keep Trade Cut, so I was looking at Frank Gore Jr., Anais Smith, just one of these, hey, here's another, here's just a tiny bit more to make this right for you. Jameis Winston, I think, is on just a one-year deal now, so I think it's an easy, hey, does Code really plan on re-signing this guy? Can I get some value out of this? Project gets those points in the bank as a projected 101 winner or 102. If the difference between 101 and 102 is Frank Gore in a third, that's probably worth it. A mid-third in 26 and Frank Gore or some other player will not get you from 102 to 101. It won't get you from 103 to 102. So maybe make this trade now. Code picks up some youth and some pieces on the back end, and we're all happy here.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. As a Jameis Winston owner in this league, I'm sure other people own Winston in other leagues, but man, whenever he's starting for you and you're watching that game, it is entertaining as hell. Like you are on the edge of your seat the whole time because you don't know what's going to happen. He'll throw a 98-yard touchdown one play, then he'll fumble the ball out of the end zone, Mark Sanchez style. You never know. So it keeps you entertained, that's for sure.
There you go, Project. There's your plug. Come and get Jameis Winston. Moving on
Yeah,
to Allen. This is one of the bigger trades. I think there are 2 or 3 big trades where the rest are kind of just nice and small. Allen, you're pushing for the playoffs. Go get a big chunky piece here. Allen getting David Montgomery for a 2025 mid-third and Xavier Worthy. I think that Worthy could be good. I think he's probably a gadget player, but he has the potential to be good. Allen has clearly said, this is the time for me. This is my year. I don't think he has any picks in 2025 except maybe his first.
He does have his first still, at least. Yeah, I know that much.
Yeah, so he has his first and a third. Next year only has a first. Already traded his 26 second away. So Allen's still pushing, saying this is the year for him. So why not go get David Montgomery, who is producing incredibly well, and send away Xavier Worthy in a third? I thought this was, imagine that running back room: Ken Walker, Bijan Robinson, David Montgomery. That is petrifying. So I wanted to get a big name piece here for Allen with this trade. Trading with Flynn in this example.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we get this video out as soon as possible so that you guys can
as soon as we're done. Yeah,
and get it, because Montgomery's planning to play against his former team tomorrow on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah.
I mean, I got Montgomery in Anonymous, our other startup, and he is just absolutely killing it because he's projected for like a touchdown every game because of how good the Lions' offense is. So if he's able to pull Montgomery from Flynn, that would be a big boost to him, especially because he's only got like 3 RBs on the roster.
Yeah, and he's in the playoffs. So you're in the playoffs. You're trying to push for that bye. Go for it. Yeah. Next one, Saquon Barkley has been the talking point for everybody for this entire time, with K-Migs not being able to trade him. So I said to myself, how do I make what is the trade for Saquon Barkley? This is what I got for you, Migs. I might be biased. It's me sending 102, 103, whatever that early first is, as well as Roschon Johnson for Saquon Barkley. Why Roschon Johnson? Okay. Well, K-Migs is the one who originally drafted Roschon Johnson, so maybe he's a fan. This is the last time that K-Migs can sell Saquon, because if he doesn't, then he's gone. Now, K-Migs has come out and said many times, Saquon's dying here. I'm running him into the ground. I'm pushing for playoffs. It doesn't make sense for me to do it. But I wanted it to be the trade going into this. This was the one that I found. And so the essentially 103 probably, and Roschon Johnson for Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, these franchise tag deals are interesting because not only, you can't, so you get the reduced price on the contract, and then yeah, you can trade him away or maybe try to win it back in the veteran auction. But like other GMs know that you're kind of pigeonholed. So for Kane Miggs, I mean, yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? I mean, he's put up 200 points in the past several weeks, but it gets down to the deadline in however many days now, like 5 days, and
Yeah.
you're looking at that disgruntled note on his player card, and yeah, he's not going to be back next year unless you can win him in the auction. So maybe try to get
Yeah.
something for him. Yeah, I don't think this is horrible. It's obviously trading away Saquon is kind of
Well,
asinine right now with just how like what a history-breaking year he's got. But I mean, what is this? The 102, and then like a what? What else is it?
102
Again?
or 103 for Roshan Johnson for Saquon. And I think
Yeah, I mean,
you
like
can
that.
turn that
Yeah,
projected pick, right? Like you can turn that 103. Let's pretend that he's like, well, I don't want to lose Saquon. I don't want to lose him. Okay, we'll take 103. And K-Mix is a trader, right? Take 103, and what can you then go buy with 103 instead? Turn this into a 3-team trade if you want. Turn this into whatever. I think he has enough
yeah,
pieces. If he was in Allen, like if his team was built like Allen's team, where there's nothing else behind it, then no, you can't do this. But when you can move the pieces with the team that K-Mix has built, um, I would be looking to shop Saquon, but that's me. Moving on
yeah.
to
Interesting,
Unicorn. Oh,
interesting piece on Roshan before you move on. I thought there was news that like Roshan might start splitting with Swift. I don't know if that's accurate,
he's
but
been
like,
scoring touchdowns, man. He's just
right.
been scoring.
So
He's been starting for me in this league. My team is
yeah,
absolute dog shit, so it doesn't mean much. Unicorn. I wanted to go out and get a quarterback. Lamar Jackson at QB1, the team in a really good spot overall. I said, so what do I need to do to get another quarterback here? And this is what I came up with: getting Baker Mayfield, who's QB5 right now, without weapons, has Mike Evans back now, pushing for playoffs. So get Baker and a late fourth, and send away Matthew Stafford, who's on your roster. So upgrade there. You're giving up Chris Olave to do it. Chris Olave on IR, and Unicorn needing to push,
yeah,
has cap room next year, so can buy that back in a sense. But I wanted Unicorn to come in swinging in the playoffs with two top quarterbacks. Because right now Stafford being the QB2, I think that's a pretty big weak spot for Unicorn. And I love what Baker's done this year. Cheap contract as well, 52 this year, 26 then 26.
oh
Um,
yeah,
so Stafford a free agent after the season. Chris Olave not. Chris Olave was on a good deal. But I thought this made sense. This is a trade with Morgan, who kind of needs
yeah,
quarterback help to an extent, and I think would love some receiver help there. So, and Morgan probably happy to give away Baker's kind of miracle season, knowing that maybe it isn't like this next year, but also getting Chris Olave in the process. I think it makes sense for both these teams.
I mean, I personally think this is the best one you've come up with. I mean, I know a lot of people love Olave. I'm not like super high on him. But what's interesting is Unicorn poached Shaheed back and
Right.
extended Shaheed. So like obviously you're high on Shaheed. If you're high on Shaheed, yeah, it makes sense to move off Olave. I mean, and yeah, going from Stafford to Mayfield. I mean, Stafford maybe has a couple years left. Mayfield's maybe has like a longer career, rest of his career.
Yeah,
But
7-year
yeah, I
difference
think
between them.
right. I think it's good for Morgan if he gets Olave for next year because he keeps stockpiling receivers. Because right now he's starting the Packers and it's just I hate to say it, they're just unreliable for fantasy, man. Yeah. So
Yep.
yeah.
Moving on, our next one here went with Flynn, sending away Derek Carr and Jerry Jeudy. Go get yourself a receiver that you need for this push in the playoffs, the toilet bowl. Go get yourself Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers having a really good year. It expires
Yep.
after this year, but you're also picking up a second. And I think this trades with Cam. The reason this made sense in my head is we know Cam's a massive receiver fan. So you're getting Jerry Jeudy, who's got a lot of upside now that Jameis Winston's playing. But Cam doesn't have any backup quarterbacks, and if somebody gets hurt in a week, then Cam is just
Right.
immediately screwed at the superflex position. So get yourself a cheap Derek Carr, a downgrade at receiver, and give up a second for that. We've seen Cam not
Yeah.
afraid to send picks in trades. But I like this for Flynn to go ahead and get. I don't know that Jacoby Myers is an alpha, but Jacoby Myers is an instant come into the lineup, plug and play at wide receiver 1 or 2,
Yeah.
put up some points, and you're getting a second out of this when Flynn is still kind of on the building block. I think it adds security for Cam for a slight downgrade and a bit of a pick spend.
Yeah.
But if someone goes down for Cam, like if Kyler goes down, there's no way you're getting a second for a quarterback anymore. You're just done.
Right. Yeah.
And there's no quarterback for you to pick up because this is your last chance. We've seen Cam with Carr at one point as well, so he's not a believer, but there's something there, and so I like this trade for both teams.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to the Jacoby Myers resident truther. So, like, obviously, I love the trade if you're receiving Myers. But yeah, I mean, Jeudy, I know his contract sucks, but if Flynn covers some of the contract, I mean, Judy's got to be like a lock for like 8 targets a game with Winston in good weather. So, I mean, yeah, it's like if you're getting targeted like that, anything can happen.
Yeah. All right, we're on to our only trade that is not fair on Keep Trade Cut. In fact, it's drastically favored to one side. It's time, Cam. Whether you like it or not, you've got to figure out your cap situation next year. Send away Justin Jefferson to be back in cap compliance. Get Darnell Mooney and a late 2025 first back. This is with Rick. Rick has Unicorn's first round pick. And so send away Jefferson, get Mooney, who's having an incredible year back, and get a first round pick out of it. Couldn't be an early first or mid first. Part of me wouldn't be surprised if Rick didn't even do this, just as a fuck you to Cam. But Rick's the only one who can really afford Jefferson next year. I think he can take the entire contract and just be barely within compliance or something like that. We're awfully close to it. So I like this for both. Cam, again, getting another good receiver back as well. He's not sending away Jefferson and getting, some third stringer on the, the Colts or something like that. It's, a sizably good receiver back, a first round pick back, and for clearing up $300 some worth of cap, probably a fair trade. Again, an 8,000 point difference really on KTC, but not taking contracts or situation into account. I think this was fair. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if it just ends up being somebody taking Jefferson for like a second at some point in time, and that's what the trade really ends up being. This secures. I think it's Rick and Project for 101 and 102. I think this would give Rick 101. I don't know that a late first gets you to 101. Like, I don't know. It depends on the class, I suppose. But I don't know that 102 and 111 gets you to 101. Maybe it does. I don't know. But, I think that getting Justin Jefferson for a late first and a good receiver is a trade that would make sense. And Rick's the only one that can really afford it. So Rick's the only person getting two deals offered to them in this theory trading.
I mean, if you take the KTC thing off and you take, like, I guess, the contract situation out of it, I mean, obviously everyone's going to keep Jefferson, but 100%. Mooney's had a crazy good year. I think he's, like, right up there next to Jefferson for, like, most catches of, like, 20-plus yards or something on the year. So, like, he's definitely getting it done. And guess who's playing with? Jetta's old QB, Kirk Cousins. So, like, I mean, if anything, Kirk is just proving that he can support multiple wide receivers in that offense.
Yeah.
Multiple pass catchers even. So it's like you got Mooney tied to Cousins for at least 2 years, and it's like, what if Cousins isn't the guy? Oh no, Michael Penix steps in, a first round, rookie. It's like, pick, okay, like, I mean, and plus Mooney's on he's like a $20 deal. Yeah. And he's 28 next season. So I mean, if you're just trying to get out of hell with the cap, I mean,
way to do it.
Definitely could do worse than this, Yeah.
$19 this year. The contract has expired, but Cam has plenty of contract moves like we all do. Mooney, wide receiver 13, London, wide receiver 10. So Kirk is producing. I think it makes a lot of sense. Moving to our last division, the Achilles Smith division, as we're starting to push 40 minutes. So we got to speed this bad boy up. Let's talk about what Blind should do. You're looking for the future. Aaron Jones is old. His contract's expiring. Let's send him away to Allen, who needs some depth for Michael Penix Jr., as Allen makes a push for the playoffs. You need to find something else here to make this fair. So Michael Wilson comes into play as a good young wide receiver piece. Was toying around with what options might work there as the secondary piece to the tertiary piece to the trade. And it ended up settling on Michael Wilson as it was the most even. Allen doesn't need Penix right now. Neither do I really, but It's an idea of Aaron Jones is good now. He's 30 years old. He's plugging along. There's no timeshare. It's another running back for Allen, which he seems to favor as Allen pushes for playoffs. Maybe Penix starts or comes online as my team comes around the corner. And so that's what I came up with for myself.
Yeah,
What I do
seems
this
fair.
trade, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good question because you need the points total too.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, but I really like the idea behind it as I was looking at it because I was like, okay, well, what is what should I do in theory? And Aaron Jones came up, and I was like, well, what makes sense? And who haven't I done a trade with yet? And I was like, oh, well, Allen. And then I saw Penix, and I was like, that's what it's going to be. I knew that would be the core of it, and then it just went from there. On to you, Code. Here we go. Go get yourself a dog, alpha wide receiver. Go get Nico Collins from Morgan. Send away Devonta Smith, who's banged up right now. Keon Coleman, who's inconsistent, and a fourth to make it even on KTC, and go get yourself Nico Collins. Your receivers are strong. You've got A.J. Brown. You've shown interest in those dominant receivers before, right? I know you're a massive Justin Jefferson fan. You've got A.J.B. there, but your receivers after that are a little inconsistent, it seems like sometimes. Ridley, Zay Flowers, Amari Cooper, Devonta Smith, Keon Coleman, Jalen Coker. So I said, how do I get this guy a dog? And I went and found you one. It's a little expensive. I know you're a massive Devonta Smith guy. In fact, you've told me you like Devonta more than AJB. But him being hurt, him being hurt, you having both receivers pushing for playoffs, and you're also not in a bad cap spot, but your cap situation gets tricky. So this ends up saving you in 2 years. So I feel like you're kind of like, this is my time, this year and next year. And I think that Nico can do that for you. And he's, in my opinion, an absolute alpha. I think he's top 5 wide receivers in Dynasty. I think this would make Morgan do it too, because you're getting 2 really, really good receivers and a fourth on top for you, Morgan, because I love you.
Gotta get those fourths.
Oh.
It's all about the fourths.
Yeah. And let's move on to Rick. Rick sending away Kelsey and a fourth to get a 2026 second and Eric All. When I was looking at this one, I can't remember who this was, but their team does not have a tight end, and they're pushing.
It's probably me.
Is this you?
Yeah,
I think this is you. Yeah, it is you. Yeah, you need a tight end. So you're debating between Pat Freiermuth and Dalton Schultz. And so I think Rick could look for you as a trade partner. Yeah, and send that 2026 mid-second away. That's Allen's. You acquired Allen's second to get Joe Mixon since you ate all that contract hit. I know you poached Eric All, I think, so I know that you like him. But this gives Rick a tight end to kind of replace over time slowly. You get Travis Kelce, which is kind of something that you need right now to plug that last hole really on your lineup. And you've got to add Rick adds a little bit of fourth on top to make it even here. So back-to-back trades showing up on the screen for you, but I thought that made a lot of sense to acquire a tight end. And I was trying to figure out what made the most sense and who, where, and Kelce jumped out. I was like, maybe that's the way to do it. So made it happen here.
Some of these are. I'm surprised that some of these are even fair on KTC because I think there's just a lot of hype around All in the community. I think that for some reason the being tied to Burrow. I mean, he was good when he was playing, but like the injury bug with him is just he got injured last year. I think he's injured this year for the rest of the season. So hopefully, next year if he hangs on to Ticket to Ride's roster, he's good. But yeah, I mean the win now push is what it's all about currently.
Yeah, and I think this, that's not a bad price to play for a win now push. Last one we've got Chase. Before said he's a believer in Chase Brown. It had nothing to do with the first name. And so how do we get Chase Brown back on a Chase's roster, whether he's pushing for playoffs or the extra pick? You've got Jonathan Brooks. People are super high on Jonathan Brooks. I'm not saying they should or shouldn't be, but he's sitting there not doing much for you, Chase, and this is your window. You've kind of said, I'm going for it with acquiring Burrow, with acquiring McCaffrey. So send Brooks away, get Chase Brown, who's taken over that backfield. You've got to add a fourth on top to make it even on KTC. Who cares? I think this is a good trade. Chase Brown currently rostered by a team that is in the middle of slightly retooling. I can't remember who it is. Please hold. Chase Brown owned by Project Badass. So Project probably happy to get a younger running back from this.
Yeah.
and you getting a guy who's going for it. The only tricky part is Project's a Bengals fan. You're taking a Bengals player from him.
Yeah.
That's the only hiccup there. But I think it's a good trade, and I think that Chase has really opened. Like he's saying, this is my backfield now. Zach Moss, you go sit down on the bench. I'm here for it now. So that's all we got. We did it.
Yeah, it was fun. This was one of the longer ones, but it's always fun to do this.
Yeah, this was a big time investment as well. I think to get all this ready to go and set up. But I think it was I think it's fun. I liked all those trades. I like your analysis on the worst trades of the year and all that. And we did it. Trade deadline coming up on Sunday morning at 12:01. So Saturday, last day for trading. I'll be around. I'm going to be in Discord a bit. I'll make a room for some last minute trading. I'm trying to buy. I'm trying to sell. There are multiple people who have messaged me saying similar things that are buying or selling. Some within reason, some not very close.
Not very close.
But we saw a lot of things happen. We saw that massive Jamar Chase trade go down at the last second last year. We've seen things happen at 11:55, and wouldn't be surprised to see some more of that this year. Any final thoughts from you before we go ahead and wrap this bad boy?
My final thoughts are: hope everybody has a very happy Thanksgiving, eats plenty of food, and enjoys plenty of football.
Yeah. Thankful for all you motherfuckers that are just as insane as Code and I are with this. I think I've said a very similar phrase the last 2 years, but truly I'm thankful. It's a lot of work that goes into this, but I don't think the reason there's so much work that goes into this is because we continue to expand and do more, and it's because you guys are just as passionate and excited about this as I am.
Oh yeah,
which is that's the main thing. Like if you guys didn't give a shit, we wouldn't do this. I work overnight tonight. I stayed up all night last night, and I worked on that spreadsheet for 3 hours because it was fun, and I knew that you guys would like it. Otherwise I would have just been doing something completely different. So I'm glad that you guys are as insane as I am. So. I hope you guys have a good Thanksgiving. Canada doesn't do Thanksgiving, right? So Unicorn, you just go fuck yourself, the Kung Fu Pandas, whatever, right? Like they're just.
We'll just tell them have a happy day, I guess.
Have a happy day. Enjoy your day of football, Unicorn. Enjoy Thanksgiving as well if you celebrate anything like it. But to those of you in the coolest country in the world with an annoyingly northern neighbor, have a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the time with family, friends, or relaxing and doing nothing, and we'll see you soon.